couple of nights ago, as I was about to go to sleep, it started raining really hard. And it made me think of a few things, but one of those things was that I want to film the next video in a different location. And in particular, since I could hear the trees so well, I thought this is going to be a special episode about creativity in the forest. Now, you know the feeling when you have a really great idea, and by the time you get to try and bring it to life, your mind comes up with 1,000 reasons why you shouldn't do it anymore. This is exactly it. This thought process where one part of your mind is busy with trying to create all these possibilities, all these possible solutions, all of these creative thoughts that can foster, and then another part of your mind is actively shutting everything down. So I wanted to talk a little bit about writing. When I was growing up, my first interaction with writing, of course, was learning to write in school. And school somehow did a really good job to make me really hate writing. It made me somehow think of it as a chore or something that is not pleasant to be done. So naturally, as I was researching the topic about writing and about creative thoughts, I boiled it down to 3 things, a system, if you will, 3 things that actually help you to continue and foster your creative thoughts. And it actually starts with writing things down without judging them, is this a good idea or not. So in particular, I'm talking about if you're trying to come up with some solution, instead of going to this one definitive destination, you try to go as many different destinations as possible to solve this problem. So it's a simple exercise where you pick a topic and you try to write as many things as you possibly can for that topic, so you maybe want to try and jolt down as many ideas of how you could cross from one side of the river to the other. Or maybe it can be something completely random, like coming up as many objects as you possibly can think of that are around. So all of these kind of ridiculous exercises at first glance do a very important thing, because it teaches you to unlearn the need to validate your own thoughts. So realistically, we have thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of thoughts every day, and most of them don't make it through this filter. Essentially, they get shut down even before they come in. They get shut down because you have different patterns of thinking, and you might even think that you only are going through this particular trail of thought, but realistically, you already trained yourself to shut it down before it even reaches your mind. Now, another exercise that I discovered also was about having continuous writing. So if before we spoke about coming up with sentences essentially on a specific topic, the other one was actually just letting your mind take a stream. So you streamline your thoughts and then you continue writing for a set of time, maybe like 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes, maybe half an hour, depending on your own mental capacity. But essentially what happens is that you're not judging your own thoughts, you're not judging what you're coming up with, and you're letting your mind to release all of these ideas and thoughts that you have in your head on a piece of paper. And I think it's quite interesting because in a weird way, this led me to realizing what I dreamt last night. So one of the times when I was doing this, I somehow started to remember the last dream I had, and I write everything down. It's just like one of these completely ridiculous stories, where everything is falling and changing shapes and just coming together in this one ridiculous mess of a dream. And what I noticed is that there was so much encrypted symbolism in my own mind or in my own dreams, and of course, you make sense of it. So I made sense of my own dreams for myself and what those symbols mean to me. In a weird way, I feel that my mind is communicating with me at night. It kind of sends this message of digested mess of what happened in that day, or maybe what happened in the weeks, or sometimes you need time to process trauma or process something that happened that was either very pleasant or very unpleasant. I think both can have this very strong impact on yourself. And we have the sun. Look at that. So last but not least, the final exercise that I wanted to talk about. Maybe more of a psychological exercise, but you try to discover the things that you're actively avoiding and you write about them. So it's one thing to plan to do something about it. It's one thing to think what you're going to do about it, or maybe just give your self some space to process it. But what about expressing your thoughts that you'd normally always hide? And these come in the various shape or form. It comes because maybe you were taught when you were growing up not to talk about those things, or maybe you were taught to hide it because of some cultural aspect in your life. And I noticed that writing about it really helps. Now, there is a very important note here, is that I also acknowledge that not everybody has a safe household, and maybe something that you are forbidden to talk about or to write about can get discovered. So it is something to take into account. For me, naturally, because my handwriting is pretty bad, nobody can really read what I write anyway. But jokes aside, like, some of the thoughts are meant to be hidden. Some of the thoughts are meant to be hidden with a depth of symbolism, hidden with some special meaning that maybe is not directly understandable immediately as you read it. Maybe it's not something that not directly means what you're writing about. And this art of writing, obviously, this is essentially creative writing, because a lot of the ideas are meant to be hidden. A lot of these, subconscious messages that go into the depths of your mind and makes you wonder and then come up with a conclusion of what you actually wrote. What did it really mean? But similarly, you can hide these, so to say, thoughts that you normally don't express in this creative exercise. So you learn to create something that maybe has a bit more meaning than it looks on the surface. Now you might be thinking, what does this have to do with drawing? What does this have to do with painting? I noticed that I come up with more ideas what I want to draw or what I want to paint like this. Sometimes I write about something for the whole week, and then at the end of the week, when I have more time for myself, such as the weekend, then I can just go in really in depth what I wanted to create and try to make it. Now, a lot of these drawings live in my journal, so nobody will get to see them ever. And that's okay, because I'm not drawing them to share with the world, maybe in this case. I'm drawing them for myself. I'm drawing them as a favor for my own mind, that it's okay to think about certain things. It's okay to maybe deal with some certain, deal with some trauma that you encountered in life. And you move on. So in a way, you're coping by writing, and later drawing, and that's life. And that's something that I personally discovered, I would say, rather late. Not that there is such a concept as being late to learn to draw or late to learn to write. It's just that I think it helps tremendously to give some sort of meaning to everyday actions. And that was about it. So I wanted to say thank you so much for watching. I personally really struggle to not shut this idea down, to go into the forest and film a full episode of talking about creativity. But I'm happy I pushed through that. It is not the most comfortable place to draw, but I hope at least it brings some entertainment value. I wish you a lovely day, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye-bye.